Hey guys, this is LoveTalk Lagos. We're a group of friends that whenever we meet, we end up talking about love and relationships. So we're like, what the heck? Let's start a podcast.
This is another special episode in our love series about relationships and the differences between them. We've touched on a few age difference. What else? Tribal differences. So today's also going to be very interesting. We're going to be talking about the socio-economic differences as well. I know we left you on a very hot position last episode about gender roles and all of that because if you wanted to break the table and destroy it. But we will leave that conversation aside so we can finish our series. But don't worry, guys, we'll get to it and obviously be able to enjoy our take on that. So, shall we? My name is Ife. I am a TV personality.
I'm Ifeoma and I am an entrepreneur and psychologist. I feel like I almost have to say that now just so that people understand the point of view where I'm coming from. Yeah.
I'm Okuns. Entertainment.
And I'm Peter, I'm a media consultant. Socio-economic differences in couples. Who wants to have a first go at this?
Can we start with the question of how important is it?
Okay, so Ife, how important?
You're holding it, Peter, because you start to not say anything.
Okay. Well, so I feel it's over the years, the importance of that kind of the congruence in socioeconomic status has increased for me over the years because sometimes you want to even date outside your class and you find a lot of insecurity. Whether it's the man or the woman, there's this insecurity of, you're of a higher class than I am and it normally causes issues. So it's like, okay, you might as well just date within your circle because dating already is hard. We don't need like those insecurities sipping in, especially if the woman is from a rich family and the man is from, just your normal average Nigerian,
So basically,
you know.
men have fragile egos that they can't date women who are richer. That's what you're saying.
I mean, even the other way around, as Okuns will tell us shortly, women also have that insecurity of he's from a richer family than I. Okuns, please tell us your personal experience.
I will come to it. Let me hear what Ife has to say.
I don't know any Nigerian girl that's going to be worried about dating someone in a higher class. I think most people actually want that. They want a man who is a lot more financially stable. I mean, a lot more financially stable than them. I don't know. I've never seen it. I've never heard it. I've never met any woman that's going to be like, this man is too rich for me. That has never happened, at least not in the shores of Lagos. And I'm a woman, so I don't know who Okuns is hanging out with. Maybe the girl doesn't want to tell him the truth. It's not about the money, and he's just using money for scopes, because I know girls do that, but there's no... it's going to be hard to convince me that there's a woman on this planet. Let me even make it smaller. Lagos, that would be worried or feel insecure that her man is richer than her. I don't know, like how, why?
It's not really a worry. It's a question with the fact that it doesn't come between you and the person you're in a relationship with. It's more about what the family will say. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not because it's two families marrying into each other. It's not just you and the man or you and the woman. You understand what I'm saying?
So please, Okuns, just not to cut you short, from what you're trying to say, who in this case was the richer family? Was it the man's family or the woman's family?
Well, let me just use myself as an example.
Okay.
There's a chick I'm involved or I was involved with. I don't know. I'm not. I don't like to stay faithful because I want to explore. I'm still young. Um, and and okay, so I used almost 2 years to follow up with the chick, and eventually, when I got tired, is when she got interested. And then, I mean, now she's the one following up with me. But yeah, my point is, um, so we're having the conversation about marriage because what I want to do now, I'm like, okay, even if we don't marry, you're going to have one of my kids, At least let's see where that goes. Now, the lady is orphaned and she has been a nurse. She's 9 years older than I am. And in her own case, she's like, so when I was discussing marriage, she was like, are you sure your family would accept the fact that, I mean, we may not be of the same caliber? I said, really, I mean, based on both of us, I mean, you come across as a smart person. A liberal family will not use that as an excuse. Now, but how many families in Nigeria are liberal? In as much as many people want to be liberal, you still have those people that are conservative. Or in most cases, maybe it will be our generation that will be more liberal. But our parents, trust me, no matter how liberal they try to feel, in most cases they are still conservative.
But I have a feeling that what you're describing is not a socioeconomic difference. I feel like she's coming more from the age difference, and it just happens that maybe it's a combination of both age and then the socioeconomic difference. But in this case, I would think that the age factor is actually more than whether she's actually offered.
Well, not anymore.
Yeah, but
yeah.
even the socio-economic difference, I think the way Peter even introduced it, I saw it different. I thought maybe she was saying that he's too rich for her, but that's not what she's saying. So she doesn't mind it. She's just saying, would your family want to then bond with me that I'm from a lesser class? So she's not rejecting the idea of hypergamy, which is basically stepping up your class. It's from your end. Like, are you guys going to be okay with stepping down, sort of? And I guess that's a very different conversation. So then I think I'll still confidently say no, Lagos girl wouldn't mind being with a richer
To
person.
be honest, yeah. Of course, you are different, but mind me, I'm making a classification, but I think it's okay to make controversial statements. Um, if you come across a girl that went to Unilag and you come across one that schooled abroad that didn't hang around girls like Unilag. Now, mind you, I'm not saying all Unilag girls before somebody want to come and use it against me. But even people I went to school with, the moment they went to Unilag, they changed and they sound like the typical Instagram Lagos girl. And then the ones that may have schooled abroad or decided to just stay neutral of many of all these uh, notions that people are passing, like the way Tokyo one now has manipulated all the women around. You know what I'm saying? So like just those kind of things. So really, it depends on people and their mindset.
What are you saying? Are you saying that the women that would mind going upper on the ladder?
No, no, no. In most cases, women want to that, and I think in reality, men also would like to go up or go down. In more cases, ladies are the ones that want to go up, and it's understandable. That's why you even have some men that say, you know what, you're the mother of my kids. I want you to raise my kids. Maybe like when they are like 3 years old. I will get you back up, maybe to start working again. But some men decide to say, okay, they want to carry all that for the meantime. I know as a modern woman, well, I know as a modern woman, you may not be of that party, but there are still many men that will say, sit at home, take care of the kids. When they are old enough, you go back and work.
Okay. So I mean, the thing is, how far off are you guys in terms of this socioeconomic status? Now, no matter the woman who wants to marry up, if let's say she's a house girl or she's a trader or she's selling tomato, and I bring her to my home, she wants to go up, but that familial issue which you mentioned, which she rightfully brought up, would be there, right? Because yes, good, oh, she's marrying up, but the family is like, what is happening? Why are you ignoring all the women in your circle and going there?
Before we get to family, let's talk about you and that person.
Okay.
Before we even get to family, how how realistic is it for you guys on the table to actually bond and fall in love with somebody from a very different class? And what's different is that you're higher, because I think when the person's higher is a bit different. Everyone can get used to wealth, but stepping down, like how far would you
To be
go?
honest, I understand what you're saying. To be honest, it's more a situation of where is this person? Where is their relationship going? In a sense that, okay, fine, I marry. If I say, okay, I bring in a tomato trader, now it depends. The person may have been a tomato trader based on circumstance. You understand? Maybe they came from a very rich home, but something happened, and all these superstitions and stuff, and maybe they were blaming the mother. But then this person is as intelligent as you. The reason why a lot of times some of these things they don't even happen is just because, in most cases, if you're marrying down, you just find out that both of you are even of different thinking categories. The way you guys think, the way you communicate, the way you interact with people, all those things matter. If the lady or if the guy is coming across as very brilliant, and in some cases they don't even show it, like you wouldn't notice that they are poor if they didn't tell you their life story. You get what I'm saying? Then it can work. But outside that, of course, those three things I just mentioned are things that play a part.
I also have the opinion that sometimes when we talk about socioeconomic, it's also good for us to actually put them in categories, because I find that when we're talking about class, which now has to do with like your upbringing, your lifestyle, your amount of exposure and all of that, it's completely different to when we're now talking of when you actually have money. And I'll give you an instance. There are people that they don't have any class just because they weren't born into a rich family, but now they're billionaires and they still don't have class. So in that situation, for instance, yes, you're marrying up, but are you really though? Because
That's where intelligence
because
becomes a thing.
because at that point now you're marrying up, but it's money. And then even though yes, a lot of people clean up nicely, but there's still that part. And I'm so sorry, I would have mentioned this. Someone I know, and a lot of people know this person. She's actually very wealthy, but I'm sorry, her wealth has still been unable to buy her class just because, and that's even what is mind-boggling for me. She has all the money in the world. If she wanted to go to a finishing school, she could. If she wanted to go but yeah, there are many women that are like that. And to be honest, for me, please, we're not no
No, no, we're not mentioning. We're not mentioning names.
Like, I'm going to come and beat you. But you see, if you bring somebody up like Thatcher,
The way Thatcher speaks, I mean, now, even the way I speak, see Peter's voice, for example. Now, just that alone, maybe now he has some knowledge of some certain things. He comes to a public space with somebody and is having conversations with everyone and seems to be knowledgeable about it. It has a lot to do with class. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, but if the person
it's like
may,
Thatcher. You want to
or like me, where my voice is dragging. Now, I may come across to someone as, it could be a drunk, or, okay, why does this guy talk like he has slurred speech? Another person will listen to Thatcher and be like, this one, from the way she speaks, she sounds like a bush girl. In reality, she may not be, but hey, just for that reason alone, somebody would think so.
But I don't think that people judge your class based on how you speak.
Bro, that's the part I was just getting to.
See,
I
judge your class based on how you speak. Let me rephrase that. I judge a man I want to be attracted to based on how he speaks. I cannot, and I will not. And I know this is very shallow. This probably has to be the most shallow thing about me. But if the man speaks bad, I can't. I don't know what's wrong with my brain. It's an instant switch. Like nothing. There's a man that I was admiring for months in uni. months. Beautiful face. He was a dancer, popular. Just like suits my body. Oh my gosh. And then but he was really quiet. I mean, I'll form activities in front of this boy. I'm friends with all his friends. Not the whole stupid thing that you do when you're like in your teens or whatever. Trying to get this man's attention. Finally did at the library. This guy now came to me. Oh, what's your name? I was like, Ifeoma, she's Charles. Okay. And then Charles was like, okay, I want to take you out at 3:00 tomorrow. I swear, instantly, all the crush I'd been having on this man for months, I couldn't find it anymore. I was like, it was like a instant switch. Like, did this guy just say 3:00? It can never be me. Never.
No, actually, I can relate to that. But it's a very good indicator, right? However, you do find people who grow up in, like, let's just say, a generally less, I don't want to say poor, but I'm going to say poor.
No, but wait.
That end up speaking well somehow.
Like when I was saying the way they speak, yeah, maybe that 3:00 is a problem. But I was talking about you that has a slurred speech now, for instance. People stammer, and that's not an indication of whether they have class or not.
I don't even think it has a...
So, because that is like a condition. Yeah, a lot of people stutter or some people stammer, and then it's... Exactly.
But
And
see, the thing is, Okuns is a very specific, or let's say fantastic example of this conversation, because when he was bringing up Thatcher, I was already like moving my head a bit like, nigga, are you really gonna say that? Because to me, I don't know if you take offense to this, but to me, Okuns is the one of those people that are against the norm, in my opinion. Like, most people that I know that speak like Okuns are not from the same class as Okuns. They're usually lower, right? And so when he says something about Thatcher, I'm like, Thatcher is also the same thing. Thatcher has been able to, but Thatcher is also a bit different because she's always been open about where she came from, but fame got her that wealth. It didn't necessarily it didn't mean that she has been exposed all her life. She just happened to fall into wealth since Big Brother Nigeria, so it's a bit different. But yeah, there are things like that, and I think as I get older, I'm also a lot more aware about that. Like, I know that for someone like me now, who's been growing up, we were quite specific about how we sounded. Like, my family is quite exposed to the UK, so even before I left the shores of Nigeria, how you pronounce oil or you can't say coily hair, you have to say curly. Like, the people that I grew up around were quite specific about how we spoke. So I think a lot of the times people assume that I'm from a higher class, and I actually am. So I know that it's not set in stone that the way you speak equals your pocket, but it definitely tells. Now, something I've noticed in Nigeria as well, I can tell what the person, usually there are obviously cases that break this guideline of mine, but I can tell if the person went to a private school or if the person went to a public school. I can tell if the person speaks their local language more fluently than people who don't, because the local language penetrates into their English language. I can tell what tribe they're from usually. Although, yeah, there's a few cases where obviously you get it wrong, right? Like, oh, really? And people speak really well, and they can separate the pidgin from the Yoruba and from the English, and they don't all mix together, but usually you can tell that. But away from language and accents, back to socio-economic differences, I think the major thing for me, and I like that you brought it up, Ify, which I want to dwell on a bit, is that class and wealth, to me, have to progress together for it to make sense to me. I'm all about hypergamy. I don't know if you call it prostitution or whatever it is. I know Nigerians have an issue with that, but I'm very, very intentional about that. Like, I want to be in awe of my husband or my partner in all ramifications, including wealth. You see? So I want him to be smarter than me. I want him to probably even look nicer than me. And I want him to be more exposed than me. And I want him to have more money than me. Because I think that all those things matter in terms of, first of all, keeping the interest, because I can get bored. Keeping the interest, and also just being able to respect that person a lot more. And I know it sounds a bit bad that money is not whatever. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you that it's not important. If I'm making more money than you, I will have a serious... I don't think I would like it.
Yeah, but then how does that sip into a society where we're trying to be like all equal, right? Because a guy is now saying that, okay, if a guy is saying exactly what you're saying, I prefer my partner to be richer than me, I prefer her to be more well-spoken than I am, do you get what I mean?
Like, there's a lot of men like that. Quite a lot.
Yeah, but
You see, I have
how?
friends that are like that, and I
Not
would.
a lot of men. Let's not make
It's not plenty.
exactly. It's
But
not a lot of
there's a
men.
big community of men that want women who are in higher classes, and I don't know why, but for me, the people that I know that are like that, most of them are actually models. Most of them are model men, really successful model men. But they want women that are older, that are richer, that are more, everything I've just said. They want that for their partners, for their women. I don't know why. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Each individual has a right to dictate how they want that. And let's believe everything has to do with egos. I guess my ego is just not big enough. There's some women that want to feel like they're really in charge. And they want a man that feels smaller, that that leans and relies on them a lot more. So it really depends on what is coming out of that relationship. And now when you bring in equality, I don't know if anyone has, nobody has yet, but I'm strong feminist. I'm not even going to shy from that. Equality isn't a general consensus. I decide in my relationship and in my space what I want to be equal when it comes to relationships. When we get to the office, equality would now mean I want equal pay, but that doesn't mean I have the same direct implementation for my house. I and my partner would decide what's equal for us. When I get to my church and I, based on our union of work, would decide what. There's no general equality, whatever. And I think that's a very poor way to look at things. And that's when people start to bash women. Because if I say that I'm feminist and then a man opens the door for me, your stupid, low view of the whole thing would not be like, but you want equality, no, it's very different. And they all have implementations that look different.
Okay. No, I get what you mean, right? So I'm talking about it from the man's point of view more. So it is normalized for a woman to say what you're saying. But generally, in a mixed group, a man coming out to say, I want a woman who is more financially stable than I am, who is more high, just basically a woman who is better than me in terms of exposure, experience, money. In that situation, do you feel it will be taken as normal as you saying this?
Absolutely not. But we have to look at the history, okay? So let's just say that life has started, right? A man and woman, well, hermaphrodites are too little, so we're not going to count them and all the other extras. But let's just say man and woman have started the race. What has happened for the longest time is that they cut off women's legs and men have been running, right? And then women are only starting to develop crutches and wheelchairs and all of that. And it depends on what area you are. Some people now have 2 legs. But we're catching up, right? So in the general consensus of the world, it is a man's world because they started living it first. We're not allowed to go to school for the most areas of the world. We're not allowed to make money. We're not allowed to study. We're not allowed to drive or vote and all of that. So in general, men are doing a lot better than women. If you have the conversation about men in management or women that are leading, let's not act brand new. We understand why there is an inequality. So when you now find a man that all of a sudden wants that, it's going to be rare because there's not even that many women like that anyway. Usually the men have more money. So why would you ask for a woman that has more money? That's the general thing to me. That's why it would be weird. But the more liberal spaces you get to, you realize that there's nothing wrong with that.
So, Ife, do you also feel that you would want a man who has more money, more experience, higher socioeconomic class, or are you open to be with a man that has less money than you in a lower socioeconomic class? Does it matter to you?
So the truth of the matter is that if we're going to talk of me now, for instance, for me, I even like my men older than I am. So it'll be rare for him to be older and then yeah, exactly. Because for me, it's also a situation of like, what have you been doing since? And no, it's not even just that. Saying because he's older, right? He should have more experiences, and then he's been, like she said, doing this life race. So there's some reward that you get for having done this for some time. Do you understand what I mean? And so that won't be the case. But one thing I want to say to the other regard is that men that actually say that they want women that are richer, smarter, like, Do they really though? Because we all know a man's ego. So it's not just about what he's saying. What about his ego though? And a lot of men have, no, that's what I'm saying. But a man's ego is still there. And we always hear of these situations of men that even though they were doing well, maybe something bad happened to them and then their wives have had to step in. Just because she even stepped into the position.
Disrespect him.
Please,
I think
let's not
a lot of
lie.
times-
Let's not lie. Sometimes she doesn't even do anything,
just by being
but just because of the fact that she has more money than he does, he begins to read meanings into things that don't even have
You only
anything.
do that when you don't have money.
Exactly.
A normal girl can say something, and a man can say the same thing, and it's not a problem. But when it comes out of a woman's mouth,
She's like,
let her have 5 naira in her account. It's still like, oh my god, no. Now imagine if she now has money.
Exactly. That's it. So for me, the truth of the matter is that men that say this, it's not like they don't. For me, I don't believe that they even mean it. Just because their ego
It's
is.
an idea.
Yes, their ego, and unfortunately, a man's ego is something that everybody knows. Everybody even sings about. Everybody writes about. So for him to now come and say, except maybe he's transgender. So maybe that's a thought.
Most models and like most people in the creative space usually don't uphold the normal typical toxic masculinity thing. They're quite I don't know how they've been able to do it, but they've been able to shy away from that kind of mindset. They're not shy from taking care of themselves. They do their nails. They're not as insecure in terms of ego as most people. But anyway, let's talk about like the I mean, I've said I want somebody that's in a higher class, right? But like, do you guys have a like how do I put it, like a limit or a measure? Like, must he be really really rich, and then we can do like scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I can afford 3 square mil, 250K per year, and 10 being like $80 or something. So like where is your limit, and where can you not go beneath, if that makes sense?
I mean, for me personally, so far as that thing you said about how the person speaks, for me is so important, right? If we meet the first time, right? You speak well. We have an engaging conversation, right? Because it's not like I'm so smart or whatever. But when I'm talking to somebody, I like to pick your mind. And if you have a strong belief, as I've said to you before, and the basis of your belief or the basis of your opinion is weak, I just feel you haven't thought it through, right? And when you have that kind of foundation with the way you converse with people, and you find that someone is not really challenging you mentally, it's hard to respect and stay attracted to that person. Now, a lot of like rich business, Igbo men especially, a lot of them will just go to the village, pick one fine young woman, bring her to the city. Now, when she's in the house, that woman cannot open her. What does she know? This is a city guy, had made money, right? She can't talk when men are talking, in quotes, as they say. And that's how they like it.
Exactly.
That's literally how they like it, because she just gets to look pretty, a trophy wife, right? So that kind of woman, what is she opening her mouth to say? When you're breaking cola, no, she should move now. Even if he has paid for her to get a master's, he still brought her from the village. She does not know anything. So that's the downside of getting someone that is so much more exposed than you are, so much richer than you are, because when it's now time to work as a team, he will not see you as his equal. He'll be like, I brought you from the village. What are you coming to say? I beg, keep quiet first. Let me arrange. Even if he's making a mistake, the fact that he knows that he brought you out of poverty, you are not his equal to talk on average. Different from the kind of person that I would prefer, where I know that I can make a mistake. I've seen a lot of men make mistakes, and I'm here and I'm like, guy, okay, or babe, rather, we are two. I've reached a dead end though. Now two of us go suffer if we don't put minds together. You've studied, you have a degree, an intelligent woman. Why am I bringing to her to keep you quiet? But that quietness, that's the issue with this hypergamy you're talking about. You cannot make it clear that you're trying to climb up, and the man knows you're with him because he has money. And then you now want to claim equal with him when you made it clear that you want to, that it's a majority of why you've considered him is because he's way richer than you and you want to climb. Okay. So that cannot be, shouldn't be your main, purpose.
The reason why I would disagree with that is because the example you used is unique to that point alone, right? If you, that's what I was saying, that there's a spectrum, right, from 0 to like 250K per year, the entire household, and then there's $10. But I think in that spectrum, it gets to a point where if you can be, I would say, middle class for what it's worth. I think everybody understands what middle class is, and you have the basic.
We don't have any middle class in Nigeria again.
Yeah, well, I mean, on paper, but we shall know, at least within us, we know what's middle class, right? You can go to a private school, you can eat 3 square meals, you can maybe not travel, that might not be so middle class, but at least if you tried, you could try and do that. Ghana, you have a car.
Yeah, in Nigeria is considered middle class.
Sorry, that's poor. You're broke.
Okay, so I don't want to put naira into it because I don't want to put figures into it. I don't want to put figures into it because you don't know. No, you don't want to put money. You don't want to put a figure to it because you don't know how people spend their money. Because 2 million within couple is different from 2 million with 3 kids and all of that. So let's not make it more complicated, right? But let's just say that they can afford. Let's just say that we can afford basic things, right? I think when you get to that level and you have a little bit of exposure, it is easier for you to work with people who are much higher than you. That's what education and exposure does. Yeah. So even if I'm not as exposed as you, I might not be in a private jet or, eating from the best chef every day. But if I have a basic level of good education and exposure, I can mingle with you just as easy. Yeah. But it'd be harder for someone in that same extreme gap when we're not talking about somebody who's really, really poor. So for me, you can do hypergamy well. You can strive to go up well. Like you can take me to a place where billionaires are hanging out. And if I don't tell you that I'm a billionaire, I can't, why not? I'll package nicely. Do you know what I mean? And it's so easy, especially if you're intelligent and you have the right head on your shoulders and you're ambitious and you've learned. I think the thing about class is the ability to really just absorb information. And that comes with exposure and education. The problem with poor people, people who don't have good class, like the lady we were talking about in the beginning of the conversation, is that she cannot absorb information and her surroundings. So I've put you in wealth. I've put you in all of that. You've seen the way other women carry themselves. You see the way they behave. You see the way they what they spend their money on. But you don't know how to like.
Unfortunately, the person I was actually talking about actually self-made. So she didn't go to Big Brother. The person I was referring to didn't go to Big Brother. Yeah. So she's self-made and she travels. And that's what I'm saying. They have no capacity
she became
of
self-made. It's not like she was self-made from the start.
Yes, exactly.
So how you started will affect where you have gone.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I don't believe that. No, I don't believe that.
It plays a big part.
If I was born in England and I live all my life in England, my accent will not be like this today. Even though I've spent the remaining 10 years of my life in Nigeria. I may understand and may be able to say some things like a Nigerian, but the British accent will still be there. It's similar to what the point you just raised now.
No, it's not. It's just, I was saying it as a bit of an extreme, though, because I'm saying that sometimes when we talk of socioeconomic...
Patient Jonathan.
Yeah.
Good example.
A good example. Those people don't... You see, your foundation is
self-made.
very important.
Good luck. Become who you become. You understand what I'm saying? Now she have good luck.
No, now see, if you look at it, like people that have accents in white collar jobs or even just even entertainment, right? They tend to have a small ladder above people that just speak the way the average person does, and that is because of the perception that they are from a high socioeconomic status. Now there are people who maybe they were rich and they were in England for their formative years, but now they are broke. But that accent is still there. That accent is what they're still using to remain afloat. So
there's always extremes in this spectrum. And there's something you said, you actually mentioned, and I was going to say something about it, is that I think one of our biggest problems when we talk about differences is we should always strive as much as possible not to be at the extremes.
Absolutely.
Because the same way, if you're extremely poor, coming out of that, yes, you may even now have money, but that poverty mentality is still there, can be there. And then the way where you're so rich that you don't even want anyone that has a brain. Yes, you just want someone that is pretty, beautiful. Like a lot, and this is a lot of billionaires. If you go and check out the wives or the girls that they date, there's nothing in their brains. And I think they are intentionally selected for like that. They are intentionally selected because they don't want anybody that will come and be telling them anything that is remotely. They just want you to look pretty, and then when you're out, they want you to be like, oh, everyone is looking at you. They don't care.
If I was going to summarize my opinion about socio-economic whatever is in relationships, is that each individual needs to emphasize on developing themselves. I think that's an attractive trait with whatever social class that you're coming from. I think once you start to show that to other people, that you take yourself very seriously, they will take you seriously too, despite whether they're up or down or left or whatever. And then if you're quite like confident about yourself and you're not allowing exploitation, so meaning even if you're the richer person, you're not allowing the poorer person to exploit you just for money, or you're the lower person and you're not allowing the higher class person to use and abuse you just because they think that you're nothing. I think if you put all those two things together, it doesn't really matter what social class you're in, as long as the love is there and those two things also in check, you can have a good relationship.
Yeah, but you know another funny thing that we're not talking about, which I've now started to see, right? I've now started to see that people that come from two socioeconomic classes, now I'm even talking of upbringing, right? There are a lot of divorces amongst them.
Two different.
As in the other way around. Okay. It's actually when they come from the same socioeconomic class, they're easily able to divorce themselves than when there's a gap, yes. Because I think what is happening, and I think it also comes with the fact that women are now becoming empowered themselves, right? Financially as well. In a marriage, especially, if the woman is empowered, the guy is empowered, at some point you'll be like, I just can't take this anymore. After all, I can fend for myself. Unlike in the days of old, where because there is that gap and difference, the woman is relying on the guy most of the time. They tend to stick to each other because for the woman, she has no alternative. So that way, the marriages lasted longer.
Okay, exactly. So that was what I was going to conclude my point on, right? Because even if let us say the person is, let's say the guy lives in Banana Island and the babe lives in maybe in Aguda, right? So far the babe on her own is eating her own 3-course meals from whatever job she's doing. Yeah. So far she has her own small, even if it's one room, one bathroom, right? Hypergamy is great, right? But in a situation where if the guy is now trying to treat her anyhow or reduce her self-respect, she will go back and be fine in her one bedroom and in her toilet, whatever. Like, you get what I mean? She's not dependent. And I assure you that once a guy or anybody knows that you want them but you don't need them or you're not dependent on them, the attraction increases. Oh my God, definitely. They treat you better.
Really toxic and has a tiny ego, then they run away from people like that. They're like, no, I want the one that I can tell jump and they say how high. Some people crave for that kind of stuff. Yes, so let's not get comfortable.
Another thing we didn't mention or go into is when the reverse is the case. So how is it when it's the woman that is marrying down?
Men are the issues. Their ego.
No, you can't say T. You can't say that. No.
You already said it in the beginning. You already said
yes, I admitted that part.
Don't say this thing outside. Somebody will just slap you from far.
Who's slapping?
It will be like hand of destiny.
I don't hang around with such people.
No.
Now, the way the woman's family would fight, because of this day and age, this culture, this Lagos, the woman's family would fight against it. The man would be called a leech, right? Besides the fact that he would be, as you rightfully said, misinterpreting things because he's insecure about her. That is also a fact. But the woman's family would be like, what? Why? That kind of thing. This guy is bringing you down. It's less appropriated than the other way around. That's just the fact. Let's just be honest with ourselves.
I agree with that saying, but it does exist and we should. And even the truth of the matter is that women in that situation as well, for them, they go through this constant, like, people look at them and they're like, why are you even in that type of relationship? And then they judge them or make them feel even more secure. So it now becomes a toxic situation where the woman is insecure, the guy is insecure, and there's just so
it's really
much.
messy.
Yes.
But there are people who are able to successfully still do that. And in regards to that family, I think before marriage is when you would know how successful is going to be. So most of the time, people have perceptions about their. I'm saying from a woman's perspective now. They usually have a negative perception about the person that you're bringing. Either he's not Igbo enough, or he's not Yoruba, or he's not Asian, or whatever. But after a while, with a lot of interactions, they start to see where the man is coming from. And leeches have a personality. It is very hard to hide your leech behavior. You have to be really, really good, and there are not that many people anyway. Because exploitative people have extreme tendencies. That's why they're exploitive. Because I think everybody needs everybody. I don't think there's any relationship that you're going to enter that you're not gaining something from the person, and likewise. So that's not the problem. The problem is when you do it too much, like you mentioned, like the extremities, right? So usually people hang around with those people well enough to now see the man's personality. Is it respecting her? Is it still being able to lead that relationship and still be a man? Like, is his confidence shallow? Like, you'll be able to see all those things way before marriage. And even when it comes to the money, you would notice the kind of man he really is when it comes to money and weddings. Like, he's not going to sit there and just say, okay, do everything because you have more money. Usually men that are decent still want people to pull their weight, or they'll tell you to downsize. I've seen a couple like that. They'll say downsize because they want to be able to do, handle the wedding financially, because they're not really trying to explore it. So
Another point I want to bring as you were talking is that it also, funny enough, right, even though we're talking about socioeconomic, tribal always still comes into this, because so many times I don't see many relationships where the guy is Igbo and this is in this type of situation. Like, Igbo men, I'm so sorry, they do not date women that are more than them. That is just not possible. Maybe the Yoruba guy, I'm sure he's open.
but
Bini guys.
why are Igbos so traditional in that sense?
I'm Igbo and I don't even know myself. As in, I'm still trying to figure it out myself.
Something to even do with the Biafra war. I mean, I remember
Other people sure, but within
my
their own people.
dad. I mean, one of my dad's drivers in the past. He said, why people ask why do you like why is it that Igbo people like money too much? And he started giving us a history on Biafra war and all that. So yeah, it has something to do with the history of Nigeria. I'm just saying it has something to do with the history of Nigeria that has brought them to what it is today. And don't forget that these people will keep imbibing the same ideas into their children. So it's going to continue. Maybe ours will change as time goes by, but I don't know.
We'll see.
Alrighty, I guess we've literally gone out of our time frame here. The conversations are too hot, but thank you so much for listening. If you're still listening, you're the real G. We will see you in the next episode. Bye, guys.
Bye.